Alright, what's good, y'all? You read the title of the video. You know how this goes. It's been a minute. Haven't done one of these. Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, we're on tier 9, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, bro, not much else to say. Let's hop right back into this. Alright, first off, we have despair code. And this is a theory that there's a pseudoscience that the world is made up of, and everyone is actually controlled by external forces, kind of like sleeper agent codes, but like it's for everybody, really. And along with this theory, it's presumed that there's a certain noise that can cause slaves under the influence of the Illuminati to have their depression sensors triggered to the point of suicide, essentially also being a self-destruct button, hence it being called the despair code. Alright, next up we got Big Soy, and this is like the third time we've talked about this, but essentially soy protein powder decreases testosterone levels in healthy men, and basically people believe that soy is used to emasculate men and make their hormones more estrogen based. Alright, next up we got Dr. Emoto's water experiments. And this doctor, he theorized that water was the blueprint for our reality, and that emotional energies and vibrations could change its physical structure. So he would expose water in glasses to various words, phrases, pictures, or music, and then freeze it, and then examine the ice crystal's aesthetic properties with microscopic photography. For example, he held that water from a mountain stream, when frozen, showed structures of beautifully shaped geometric designs, but water from polluted sources created distorted, randomly formed ice structures. In 2008, he published his findings in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, and many people claim that the experiments were fake, considering the fact that the results have not yet been replicated. Alright, next up we got self-bearing hoses. And basically, in 1955, a California resident, George DePaso's daughter, was watering the family garden when she laid the hose on the grass, and it began sinking into the earth until nearly 20 feet of it was underground and had to be cut off to stop it from going even deeper. The section of the hose that went underground was never recovered, and apparently there were also similar cases that were reported in Florida, Minnesota, Kansas, New York, Ontario, and Michigan. Geologists believe that the water pressure from the hose pipe created a vacuum that pulled the hoses into loose soil, but they were unable to duplicate or recreate the event, so nobody knows the true cause of this phenomenon. Alright, next up we got cigarettes, extreme health benefits, and this is the idea that cigarettes are actually healthy for you. And yeah, this is, I don't know, man. I don't know how you would possibly back this. But I mean, it's a theory. Alright, next up we got secret human organs. And so technically there are factually organs that we're still discovering in our bodies today. There are parts of the body that scientists have known about already, but just don't classify them as organs, as some of them are like really, really small and hard to distinguish from surrounding tissue. And this, I guess there's more to the theory that there are organs in our body that we haven't discovered yet. Alright, next up we got iceberg knowledge and psyops, and this is a conspiracy theory icebergs and all icebergs are just fabricated in order to throw you off the real trail of what's going on. While you and me are caught up exploring these icebergs, the Illuminati, the feds, or the bourgeoisie are just right under our nose laughing at us while they do the real shit that we don't know about. If you want to get deeper into it, you could also be like, oh, the people that make iceberg videos are trying to throw everybody else off because they're also part of the plan. And you know what? If you theorize that, you're absolutely right. None of this shit is real. It's all to distract you from what's really going on. Alright, next up we got tops of mountains. This is a theory that no one has ever really been to the top of a mountain, or mountains are fake, or that mountains are really the remnants of giant trees that used to exist long ago. Alright, next up we got organs decalcification, and the concept of decalcifying the pineal gland is an alternative practice in medicine, and it's believed that reducing calcifications on the pineal gland help with migraines and problems sleeping. And people that try to decalcify the pineal gland, as it's just a natural process, but more to it, it's believed that fluoride increases the calcification of this gland, so people try to stop drinking like fluoride water, avoid using toothpaste that contains fluorides and pesticides and stuff. But yeah, it's just an alternative practice to try and decalcify your pineal gland. Alright, next up we got solar plexus clown gliders, and this is just described as a corruptive entity that infects weak and vulnerable people through the quote-unquote solar plexus chakra. And yeah, they can also spread through images that are circulated online. So I'm about to show it. Yeah, I'm about to show you the picture. Ooh, spooky. Alright, next up we got skin is an alien parasite, and yeah, this is just the theory that your epidermis is it's a parasite. It's leeching off you, man. Does your skin ever feel weird? Like, do you ever want to just rip your skin off? Alright, next up we got anti-medicine, and this is just a label for a group of people who are anti-medicine. In extreme cases, they don't take medicine at all. They just let their body naturally go through whatever it goes through. Alright, next up we got original Earth, and there's a theory that our planet is the one and only in the galaxy that was the first to develop life and plant life able to sustain multiple species. The OG terraformed planet. Alright, next up we got Meat Station, and this theory goes as follows. It's a theory that there's a large market that is centered around trading, selling, and consuming human meat. It's a cannibal market. If you want to get even deeper in this, it also claims that the meat is from humans that are kept on quote-unquote farms after being sold into human trafficking. Alright, next up we got world wraps, and this is the idea that if you travel in one direction in the world, you'll end up back where you started, because the world is one endless loop. Not because it's round, but because it's a loop. Alright, next up we got smart dust. And smart dust is essentially a system of many tiny micro electromechanical systems like sensors, robots, or other devices that can detect light, temperature, vibration, magnetism, or chemicals. And being very small and invisible to our naked eye, and therefore extremely difficult to detect, it's theorized that in the wrong hands, these could be used like pretty deviously, such as recording sensitive data, having them be inhaled, maybe even using them as a sensory deprivation or sensory jamming within people or technology. Alright, next up we got secret gates, and this is just theories about gateways, paths, or accessible doorways into the realm of the unknown or just different dimensions. Alright, next up we got golf rumors. And when I searched this up, I came across this glass camera project, which was apparently a project by the CIA and FBI in the 90s to create truly non-detectable surveillance tools, particularly a camera and microphone system. And according to classical theories of physics, this should be completely impossible, as you need something to absorb the light. And it was believed, however, that using their research into remote viewing and physical projection, the CIA were able to train humans to not only remotely perceive a subject, but also project this information to a camera to create an objective recording of the event. Don't think of the camera as like recording something, but it's an integral part of the viewing technique and allows the viewer to channel their focus and view images to a much greater degree than like an actual picture. So like, think of if I, hypothetically, I would take you and say I wanted to get some information on, I don't know, your fucking next door neighbor's house. I would send you over and you would just look at the house, and boom, you come here to me, and I would be able to see their house through this practice in theory. So apparently the CIA and FBI were trying to train sidekicks to accomplish this goal, and it was highly suspected that these operators were actually abducted by the government and forced to participate, or were lied to about the true nature of the project. And one of these suspected victims was named Robert Golf, who was supposedly a prominent psychic from the 1980s and disappeared overnight and was practically unheard of to this day. And that's why it's called the Gulf Rumors. All right, next up we got the pyramids built by Templars order. And yeah, it's a theory that the Templars built the pyramids. All right, next up we got endless elevators. And this is just a creepypasta and myth that if you press the right buttons on an elevator in order, you will be stuck on it forever, or use it to access a different dimension. I remember the elevator game. I think it's like you hit like the top floor, and then the middle floor or something like that, and then bottom floor. It's weird. Y'all remember the elevator game? Yeah, some creepy shit like that. Alright, next up we got divinities playing card game. And this is the idea that our existence is merely the result of divine entities playing a card game. That our fate amounts to being the result of a choice made by these beings in a celestial game. It's Card Wars. Alright, next up we got regurgitation rituals. And these are old pagan rituals that involve people eating things that actually made them throw up in order to cleanse themselves. And some people will go as far to say is that there are ritualistic cults that actually consume people and regurgitate them to get the purest form of inner cleansing. All right, next up we got hook operators, and these are apparently humanoid entities that are physically indistinguishable from normal humans but have psychic capabilities, which they use to control majority of other humans who are physically inert. Many people believe these are related to archons, demons, or hyperdimensional predators. Alright, next up we got regenerative death consumption, and this is a pagan idea that due to the body and soul being interlinked, you could attach someone's soul to your body and or gain their life force by consuming them. Alright, next up we got chakra removal, and chakra removal essentially is based in a few ideas that lead to the same conclusion. Number one being chakras are alien parasites that control us. Number two being the crown chakra is an alien and the chakras below are used to feed off of our energy. And three being that they are energetic parasites using our chakras to turn our energy into something they could feed off of. And four is just the straight up removal of chakra. Alright, next up we got sexual erotic energy, and this is the belief that sexual or erotic activities creates forms of energy that can be used within magical or scientific forms, and this also can relate to auras or succubus demons feeding off of sexual energy. Alright, next up we got trees are mammals, and this is the idea that trees are mammals, and that far, far, far off in history there's a common ancestor that we shared with trees. Alright, next up we got time and history moves in reverse, and so the most fundamental rules of the universe that we know are symmetric through time, and they work in either direction really. And the reason we experience one direction as our future and the other as our past is because in one direction, past is closer to a state of lower entropy, being the Big Bang, and the future is further away and closer to higher entropy. So this theorizes what would happen if you would follow the direction of time, which we call the past, beyond the Big Bang. You would then be moving further away from a lower entropy state towards higher entropy, thus the past would become the future. Does that make sense? It's saying like on the other side of the Big Bang there's another future. So the past is, you get what I'm saying? Are you with me, bro? Alright, next up we got the math vault of Trinidad, and basically in Trinidad there's this cave with a bunch of numbers and equations on the walls, and they seem like random gibberish to the average person, but the theory is that if you were smart enough and enlightened, you could understand these equations and open this vault that's there, and I assume gains some sort of knowledge or treasure that nobody else knows about. Alright, next up we got entity merging, and this is the concept that in parallel universes or two different timelines, you have an instance of two beings merging into one, which leaves certain gaps in history. This could also link to the Mandela effect, meaning that you yourself somehow merged into a new reality, and sudden disappearances, meaning that these other people merged accidentally into a new reality or parallel universe. Alright, next up we got Inside Out Earth, and it's kind of like Hollow Earth. It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. All right, next up we got human biocapital, and this is a concept that humans themselves have been used as resources throughout history in the forms of slavery, fuel, as being eaten or cannibalized, and as currency. And this still happens to this day, making humans one of the most valuable forms of capital in the world. All right, next up we got TGA, gray spacing, and TGA, or transient global amnesia, is a neurological disorder whose key defining characteristic is a temporary but almost total disruption of short-term memory within a range of problems accessing older memories. Both TGA and amnesia deal with disruptions of short-term memory. However, a TGA episode generally lasts no more than 2 to 8 hours before the patient returns to normal. And this is just a concept that this can be purposefully caused. All right, next up we got berry bushes, and this is the theory that there is an unknown plant or a known plant with an ability that's unknown to us that releases pollen, or when ingested or inhaled causes massive hallucinations, or potentially taps into some primal unknown strength that resides in all of us, like a massive adrenaline rush that gives you superhuman strength for like a period of time. Yeah, this is the theory that this plant, when people come by it, causes disappearances. All right, next up we got the sky is alive, and this is a theory that the sky, or the universe, the atmosphere, is alive. You can consider these stars and planets as all being tiny, working, technically living cells inside this massive organism we know as the universe. Alright, next up we got volcanoes' real purpose, and this is the concept that volcanoes are remnants of nuclear energy sources from previous advanced civilizations that existed way before us. Alright, next up we got nano UFOs and giga UFOs, and this is just a concept that there are flying saucers that are able to be tiny enough to enter your bloodstream, and others that are big enough to be disguised as clouds or even planets. Alright, next up we got cuneiform language and technology. Cuneiform was originally developed to write the Sumerian language of southern Mesopotamia, and this is a concept that people thousands of years before us were more advanced than we think, as cuneiform today is used in language that is involved with technology present day. So maybe they were kind of thinking ahead of the game, maybe, I don't know. All right, next up we got Bhutanese shadow market, and from what I've gathered, this is a black marketplace where you can buy stuff like souls, immortality, and other arcane witchcrafty things like holy relics in exchange for pieces of your memory, soul, or any part of your body or spirituality. You don't buy shit with money there. Alright, next up we got hydrophobia experiments, and these were experiments that were actually conducted on humans with rabies, as rabies itself causes hydrophobia, or the fear of water, and it can lead to painful spasms in the throat muscles each time they try to swallow, and even the sight or mention of water causes fear and throat spasms, which happens involuntarily. It kind of sucks. Alright, next up we got phantom time, and this is a theory that hypothesizes the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester, and the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII fabricated the dating system in order to place them at the special year of 1000 AD and rewrite history. Yeah. Alright, next up we got the phlogiston theory, and this was a theory that originated in the 18th century by a German scientist named George Stahl, and this was the attempt to explain combustion, and was suggested that every combustible compound contained quote-unquote phlogiston, and Stahl claimed this to be a component of all fire. And the theory was explained that phlogiston lost mass when it was burned, and it was said to be present in all metals, as burning metallic oxides resulted in the original metal. Just a theory though. Alright, next up we got Santiago interference, and this idea basically goes that our consciousness is being interfered with by something we have not yet become aware of, thus rendering our ability to use our full consciousness, we're not able to do it because of this interference that we can't find. Alright, next up we got Sphinx water erosion hypothesis, and this is the claim that the Sphinx was actually eroded by large floods or rainfalls, attributing to the theory that there was also a lost civilization, many people known as Atlantis, but Egyptologists and geologists reject this water erosion hypothesis. Yeah, it's an interesting theory. Graham Hancock really goes into depth with this type of stuff. You guys should check him out. It's pretty cool. But yeah. Alright, next up we got archontic genetic engineered entities, and what I found about this is apparently this is like some mind control being that's like a parasite and feeds off of your like energy and tries to make your body weak with these parasites so that you become more subservient to archons. Yeah, there's this whole like low-key schizophrenic rant on this topic. It's kind of crazy, but I mean, it's interesting, I guess. Alright, next up we got OLFMA or OLFMA, and this is an idea in theosophy that there is one truth in the world that can be understood, and this allows you to manipulate reality once you learn the secret. We've kind of covered this one already, but this one is like more religious based. Alright, next up we got prolepsis, and prolepsis in literature is like anticipating an action or a flash forward or foreshadowing, and this implies that historically there have been moments of foreshadowing, especially when it comes to historical texts, arts, and speeches. Alright, next up we got Stonehead of Guatemala, and there was a stonehead that was found somewhere in the Guatemalan jungle, and soon after its discovery it disappeared, and the head was theorized to potentially be an anomaly of the Olmec stoneheads, and some people think it could possibly be a remnant of an undiscovered culture. Alright, next up we got the phone mafia, and this is the concept that scam callers are more organized than we actually are led to believe, and that they are actually part of a global crime syndicate that uses this scamming method as a way of making money. And I mean, you can't say it's impossible, I guess, but it's been theorized that these older gangs and mafias adapted to the modern world and are using this scamming method to make money. Alright, next up we got approaching stars. This is a theory opposite of the universe constantly expanding, and that the planets and stars are actually slowly confining and converging to one point on the universe. Alright, next up we got Love Shack operating system, and this is apparently this computer operating system that is said to contain the grand truth of the universe within its code and can be unlocked with the correct chemical equations. Alright, next up we got retrocausality. And retrocausality, or backwards causation, is a concept of cause and effect in which an effect precedes its cause, and so a later event affects an earlier one. It's weird. It's so normal causality works like dominoes. A knocks down B and B knocks down C. And retrocausality describes the idea that an action taken today could affect actions that have already taken place in the past. So knocking down domino C today could change how domino A falls yesterday. Or a slightly different way of thinking about it is, after seeing how domino C falls, you could reach back in time to tweak how domino A falls and thus tweak domino C. To explain it in like more time, I guess, in Back to the Future, the hero goes back in time and prevents himself being born, and then has to correct it before he's like wiped out of the timeline. It's kind of like that. It's weird. It's highly improbable. I'm not gonna say it's impossible. Nothing's impossible, right? Unless time travel is invented. Alright, last but not least, we got vaccines, soul stealing. And this is the idea that vaccines are concocted to steal your soul. And yeah, that's it. I'm done with tier 9. That's it. Sorry for the long ass wait. Kind of got busy doing other videos, but I'm pretty sure we're almost done with this, and it's been fun though. It's been fun. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, all that shit, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.